Take your mind into the wonderful world of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kinetic Hour. Conversations with you and guests. With your host, Kenan, Wesley, Mason. That's me. So I'm going to read some of the root causes of ADD. I'm going to continue because where I left off with food additives. So now we have one of the big ones here. So I'm just going to pull this up. And I'm going to read. So let's see. We're going to go right here. No, we're not going to go there. We're going to go here. Is this the one? Let's see. Yes, here we go. And this is a big one here because because sugar is in everything. It's in everything. Sugar. And sugar is in everything. Sugar is in the entire manufactured food supply. Sugar is in all of your packaged products. Sugar is in it's everywhere. It's everywhere. You can't get rid of it. I mean, if there's a packaged product, there's sugar. Processed sugar. So I'm going to read this. Because again, I mean, sugar is the number one drug on the planet. Processed sugar. I don't think anyone can really dispute this at this point. I mean, you can name cocaine and heroin. Some people might even say that your antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications are addicting, which they can be, or any of your psych meds. But sugar globally, I mean, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, and sugar affects probably, oh gosh, I would say 3/4 of that group. Sugar, maybe even more. Maybe it's 80 to 90% because it's in everything. Sugar. So, and this is one of the possible root causes of ADHD, hyperactivity. I mean, we know this is what sugar does. When you isolate nutrients from the rest of their family, they're going to go haywire. And this is why sugar has the effect that it does. It's looking for affinity with its family. This is why sugarcane is so good. Sugarcane, you know, you eat sugarcane every day, you won't develop diabetes by eating sugarcane. But processed sugar, including brown sugar, that includes brown sugar. Processed sugar, because sugar is not white. Sugar is not white. Sugar is like a brown texture, a tan texture. Sugar is not white. Oh, gosh. Parents can blame sugar for a child's hyperactive behavior, but it's time to stop. The overwhelming number of studies have not been able to demonstrate behavior changes due to sugar consumption in children, says Walruck. A study in the Journal of Abnormal Child Psychology found that mothers found that mothers who thought their children were given sugar rated their children's behavior as more hyperactive than mothers who were told their children were given a sugar substitute, regardless of whether their children actually consumed real sugar. Limit sugar, limit sugar if you're concerned about calorie consumption or dental cavities, not because of ADHD. So now, going back to the food additives, going back to the pesticides, going back to the food dyes, and now we go to artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners, because it sounds like here we don't want to make sugar the scapegoat, so we're going to make artificial sweeteners the scapegoat. Artificial sweeteners, you know, the NutraSweet, the Splenda, artificial. Monosodium glutamate, which is in everything. A lot of fast food has monosodium glutamate, or MSG, which is an artificial sweetener. Aspartame, another artificiality, or they call them excitotoxins, right? Excitotoxins. So yeah, Splenda, NutraSweet, you know, those packet sugars that you have in your local restaurant when you go get your coffee or donuts, those packets, artificial sweeteners. But do the best that you can to reduce all of it, including processed sugar, because it does have an effect on not only your physiology, but the brain as well. Processed sugar, it just does. So again, reduce your amount of sugar and artificial sweeteners, going back to cereal. So just do the best that you can to reduce it by buying a different type of product from a different brand, Again, voting with your dollars. Next, we have TV or video games. So let me go to that. TV or video games. So we're going to go here. All right. So we got TV or video games. And I just saw a movie last night, matter of fact. Took me a couple of nights to watch it, but I finished it and watched the whole thing. It's a movie called Pixels. With Adam Sandler. And it came out almost 10 years ago now. But it's a movie about a child's love for video games of the 80s. The year went back to 1982. During the whole Pac-Man era, the Donkey Kong era, the Q*bert era. And I used to play all these games. From the Atari 2600. I always had whatever all the other kids had. I had the total opposite. When everybody had Atari, I had Intellivision. When everybody had Nintendo, I had Sega. When everybody was having the Atari 5600 or 7800, I had the ColecoVision. So I always kind of went against the grain, and and I love my video games, loved them, because most of the games back then weren't, well, first off, going back to the movie Pixels, the video games were very different. They were either 4-bit, going back to the Pong days, they were either 4-bit, 8-bit, going into 16-bit. And then the Nintendo and Sega era, you have the 32-bit. And then you have the Nintendo 64-bit. the progression of the pixels changed to where the characters were starting to look more and more lifelike versus more of the cartoonish video games of the 80s. Once the 90s hit, the video games started to take on a more realistic look. And once we got into the 21st century, all the video games look like reality. And the video games have become more violent oriented. They just have. And more children are absorbing this into their minds, thinking that this is the way of the world. And I won't mention any of the games, but there have been video games, since this is one of the potential root causes of ADD and ADHD. Because we know that certain stimulus trigger the mind, which is why now today you have the virtual reality glasses that have the video game inside of it. And you see people running into walls and, knocking the TV over and stomping on the dog because they're running. They think they're running away from something, or they're getting ready to fight someone and they swing into the air and end up hitting somebody for real. This is how real these video games have become. So, TV and video games, and whether they are a potential root cause of ADHD, attention deficit, or having a hyperactivity. So video games. So it says there's no proof. As always, no proof. And this is from 2010. And there have been studies since then where they put probes on the brains of children playing video games. And it does have an effect on the brain, especially today with the realistic nature of the video game. There's no proof that too much TV or video game time causes ADHD, but research has found that school and college age students who spent more time in front of the screen had more attention problems than those who did not. In theory, the constant stimulation of TV and video games may make it harder for kids to pay attention, but experts emphasize that screen time alone can't explain ADHD. No, it's the information that comes from the screen, not just staring at the screen alone. It's the information that's being programmed through the screen. There is an association between ADD or ADHD and the number of hours young children watch TV or play video games. But more study is required to determine if it is a casual relation or it's because children with ADHD gravitate more toward those activities, said Woolrich. So, TV and video games. And we all know television is a programming device. It just is. It was designed and created to program the masses. That's just what it was for. And it's been doing this since the 1950s. Television programming. That's why it's called just that, television programming. Because it's designed to program your mind and shape the way you think. Not only about life, but about yourself. How you think about life, how you think about yourself, and how you think and respond to others in your environment. Television. I mean, just look at all the stuff that's been going on right now, currently, with it being political season right now. I mean, look at all the emotions that are being tapped into, right? Through the television. It used to be the radio, but now the television has literally taken over the minds of the masses. It just has. And with the big screens and all the flat screens now, if you don't have any kind of electromagnetic frequency protection on your TV, you're literally getting blasted by frequency waves with all the information that typically comes from the TV screen, all the horribles on the news, um, you name it. Again, political season, all the name calling, it has an effect on the way people think about the world, about themselves, and about each other. It just does. Television and video games has evolved into changing the mind. I mean, I would play video games when I was in elementary school. Again, the stick men that would run across the screen. It didn't have the same effect on the mind that it does now, with most video games looking like actual reality. So it's very different. So again, know what your children are watching. Know what information is being programmed into your children. Just take a look. Just take a look. And if it's something that that is not conducive to them being productive in life, or during their teenage years or during their growth and adolescence, then that is at your discretion to change it. Because they're not going to change it. It's up to you as the parent to change it if it's becoming an issue, or if a situation is becoming out of hand, because that's what was allowed. So if it's getting out of hand, it's up to you to change it, whether it's changing the content of the video games or no video games at all. I mean, that's at your discretion as a parent. All I can say is if it is becoming a situation where your child is having behavior challenges, then yeah, you may want to make some changes, whether it's TV or video games. Just make some changes. And I'm going to go over one more, so we'll take that down. I'll go over one more here, and I'll do some more on the next one, because this one is at the bottom. This will be the last one here. So I'll just bring this one up here. And this will be the last one that I'll bring up. Let's see. Let's go here. So we have this one right here. Bad parenting. Is bad parenting a root cause of child ADD and ADHD, and that continues to develop and manifest into the adult years? Bad parenting. So let's see what has to be said about bad parenting. Is that a root cause of a child's ADD or ADHD? Bad parenting. ADHD symptoms can be confused with rebellious or bad behavior. So it's not uncommon to try to blame the parents for a child's conduct. But according to the National Resource Center on ADHD, there's no strong evidence. There's those terms again. There's no strong evidence that parenting style contributes to ADHD. While it's true that parenting style and social circumstances may aggravate ADHD behaviors, parental style is not the cause of ADHD, says Leavitt, who says parents who set consistent boundaries or behavior limits use reward and consequence behavior tools, and provide a clear set of expectations can help reduce ADHD symptoms. On the other hand, a stressful home environment or parents who refuse to accept ADHD as a diagnosed condition can make the symptoms worse. So, again, this just goes to the parent child relationship. The parent child relationship. Is the parent child relationship that of openness and transparency? Is it the parent child relationship of secret and sweeping information under the rug? Is it a parent child relationship where we don't talk about certain things at the table? Uh, is it a parent child relationship where there's a toxic environment of constant possible name calling um, or either name calling or diminishing the child's esteem about themselves or their sense of worth or their sense of value? Is that the parent-child dynamic? Uh, is there a parent-child dynamic of neglect or abandonment or the feeling of neglect or abandonment? All of these can potentially play a role in a child's attention deficits. But it doesn't have to escalate into being diagnosed as a disorder. Again, parents taking a more responsible role, because guess what? The first teacher of the child is the parent. You know, I mean, whoever the parents were at the time of conception, those are the traits and dynamics and variables of personality that the child is going to have. Whoever the parents were at that time, if they were mean people, that DNA is going to go into the child. If they were kind people, that DNA is going to go into the child. If they were angry people, that DNA is going to go to the child. So again, all of this can be avoided and all of it can be remedied, again, with the right information. So check the parent-child dynamic. Check the parent-child dynamic. Just like I was showing myself and my daughter, the daddy-daughter dynamic or relationship is powerful. It's powerful. And the more the father stays in the child's life, typically the behavior patterns will be very different as the girl grows into her womanhood. She'll see the world differently. She'll see men differently because the father was there to set the standard. If they, had acts of kindness and having a sense of authority, not necessarily dominance, but a sense of parent-child authority and knowing when to have the authority and knowing when to step back and possibly learn something from the child. I'm always open to that. And I've learned a lot from observing my daughter for the last 10 years. I've learned a lot. Not only about children, but about myself as a man and as a father. And if I want to reduce my daughter's possibilities of developing ADD or ADHD, having hyperactivity, I need to check myself as a parent and make sure that I'm doing the right things by her. And we have a great relationship. So again, this is about the parent-child dynamic and the environment. What's the environment? So just for parents, not for the children, but for the parents, check your attitude at the door, your attitude, your demeanor, your way of responding to their errors in life. their mistakes, not mistakes, but their mistakes, because they're going to have plenty of them. And we as parents have to be more understanding of them and give them more teachable moments versus diminishing their worthiness or their esteem because they made an error in life. Let's pick them up versus knock them down more because they made an error. That's how you compensate for creating ADD or ADHD. Us as parents, we need to check ourselves. I'm going to leave it there. Let's do better as parents. Let's keep being better parents for those that are parents. Let's keep being better parents and learn from our children and learn from reports like what I showed in the beginning. You don't have to be perfect as a parent because, again, I've eaten Fruit Loops all my life, going full circle now before we wrap up. I've eaten Fruit Loops. I've eaten Apple Jacks. I've never had an attention deficit, let alone it being a disorder. But at the same time, I know that 30, 40 years later, I know that the food supply has changed drastically. And I know that there are more ingredients in processed food than there were 40 or 50 years ago. That's just a fact, which is why you have more and more people protesting at these corporations. This stuff didn't happen 40 or 50 years ago. It didn't happen. But because corporations, again, on the stock market, they have no allegiance to the parent or the child. Their allegiance is to the shareholders and no one else. So keep that in mind and vote with your dollars. Vote with your dollars. Go to my YouTube channels. Go to my YouTube channels right here, The Kinetic Hour. KENNETIC, The Kinetic Hour. Again, subscribe. Tell everyone you know to subscribe. Tell everyone you know to leave comments. Tell everyone that you know to go and watch previous episodes. Leave comments about the episodes. Tell your neighbor to tune in to The Kinetic Hour. If you know someone that may want to be a guest, if they have a story to tell them to come on The Kinetic Hour, because I'm going to be having people on going into the new year or starting the new year. And so, yeah, The Kinetic Hour and Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info. Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for everyone that looks at my stories. I put clips up on my social media. I have Instagram. I have TikTok. I have LinkedIn. I have Facebook. I'm on all the social media. Kenan Wesley Mason. Look me up. Follow me. I'm always putting stuff up, whether it's stories, reels, you name it. So thank you all for tuning in. And until next time.